This video is one in a series of instructional, educational videos that I have prepared for my clients and or the general public. This particular video is on the sale of a property on real estate. Now, I'm going to go along in steps. The first step in the sale of a piece of property is the contract. The contract on most real estate sales are usually drafted and prepared by the agent for the seller. Now, the agent for the seller will get all the terms from the multiple listing agreement and include those in the contract of sale. And once the parties have agreed to the purchase price and deposit, etc., the realtor prepares the contract. The attorney has 3 days from receipt of a fully executed contract to do what's called attorney review. If you don't do the attorney review within that time period, you, the seller, and the buyer, if no attorney review is done by the buyer, you are both stuck with what's in the contract. Now, as a seller's attorney, we want to make certain changes for the protection of the sellers, some added protections. Those usually are dealing with the deposit, when it's going to be paid, how much it's going to be paid, and the inspections, when they're going to be done, and what the limits on those inspections are. And one of those inspections is done late in the process of the purchase, but it's a certificate of occupancy, and the limits on the amount of money that the seller is going to have to spend. Well, after that step, then comes the step of the inspections. Now, the buyer will usually perform inspections, and the seller will address these issues. And these issues might be structural, plumbing, electrical, radon related, pool, well, septic, etc. Those inspections are all handled during the inspection process. Now, I suggest my sellers to gather up all their documents, title, insurance policies, surveys, old home inspections if they have any, repair records, warranties for any repairs, so that you have these documents when the need arises. And many of the times it'll arise during the home inspection process that there's an issue with the roof, for example. Well, if you just put in a new roof 5 years ago and you have the repair records and the warranty, that can be easily provided to the buyer to satisfy them with respect to that condition. Or if you put in a new boiler and you have a warranty, it might not transfer to the buyer, but at least the buyer will have it, see what you spent, and be satisfied or be more comfortable with respect to any issues raised within the inspection reports. Now, after the inspection reports, the next step is the closing and the closing documents that are required. And again, I tell my sellers, gather your deed, gather your old title policy, gather your survey, and gather any documents with respect to any of the items in the property. Because during the title search process that the buyer is doing, many title related issues will come up, and if you have your owner's policy, it'll facilitate resolving many of these issues. So once you're at the title step, then that means that the buyer has already obtained his mortgage, and you're now searching the title to make sure that you, the seller, have good marketable title to transfer to the buyer. And then the closing is scheduled. Once the closing is scheduled, the deed will be drafted by the seller's attorney, and several other documents for the satisfaction of the purchaser, and the closing is is done, seller receives his proceeds. Any outstanding mortgages on the property are paid off. Any outstanding taxes or other water, sewer liens are paid off. And the documents are then delivered to the buyer for recording, and the seller receives his checks. And that is the final step in the closing for the seller. The buyer has a few more things to take care of, but that's the final step in this seller's process. Well, I hope this video was informative. Should you need any further information, please reach out to our offices. Thank you. And once again, thank you for taking the time to see this video.